Right, Jen again. So this video is going to be about travelling down to London because me and the family are off to MCM ComicCon. We're going down for the whole 3 days of the convention, so I'm going to cover travelling down, which is today, the convention, the hotel, accessibility in all these places, how easy it is to use the train or not sometimes, and also the hotel as well. Just a little bit background on MCM. So MCM has recently been bought out by ReedPop, which is an American convention company. So a lot of things have been changed by ReedPop, including things like how to access tickets and how to access carer passes. There has been some controversy as well with regards to that because prices have gone up this year. People have been complaining about the cost of the tickets. Saying that, the weekend tickets have still sold out. People complaining about the fact that it's going to be a watered down version of what MCM normally do. MCM, just for a bit of reference, is usually like one of the biggest in the UK along with Showmasters. But MCM, unlike Showmasters, is fan orientated. So you will get a lot more anime, you'll get a lot more of the different fandoms there, you'll get a lot more cosplayers attending and a lot more gamers, which is why it's the more popular out of the two. But people have been complaining because it has, you know, by the looks of things, they're having to water it down. That's mainly due because at the moment, this is down to COVID. So pre-COVID and post-COVID. So this will be my first convention since COVID in the pandemic. So it'll be interesting to see how they've put the safety measures in, how it compares to the other times that I've been. It'll also be interesting to see how ReedPop have took over and whether they've done anything differently. There's also been controversy about the carers passes. Normally guests and carers passes are announced months beforehand. This time ReedPop didn't. So there was a lot of people who wanted to go who needed carers passes have not gone because they've released the carer pass application too late. There's a lot of people who didn't want to miss out, so they've ended up buying tickets and then ended up spending money for a carer where they could have had a free pass and have ended up wasting that money. Also, people have been complaining because they've announced all the guests really late. So yes, there's a little bit of controversy around all that at the moment, so we'll be looking into all that. However, the biggest thing we've had this morning, we're all packed, so you can see the family probably back and forwards in the background. I just get Trinity to move around, you can see. The other little bit of controversy we've had, trying to get a taxi to get me. So apparently you can book at any time, you can ring up and book a taxi at any time of the day if you're able-bodied. They'll book it in, no problem. But apparently I've been trying since 8 o'clock this morning to book a disabled taxi to get me to the train station because I needed to be in the trains. I needed to be picked up for 10:15, and it took 3 or 4 phone calls, a little bit of stress, a lot of headache to actually go around and try and get a taxi that would accommodate a wheelchair. And what I've been told of the first taxi company that I used, which was Station Taxis, is that they couldn't guarantee to have a wheelchair vehicle available to pick me up at that time of day, even though I was booking it like hours in advance. Plus they don't have that many vehicles on and a lot of the drivers knock off after the school runs. So I've ended up having to go through another company who have obliged. But I've literally spent, it's now 10 o'clock. So that's 2 hours actually trying to book a disabled taxi. Now I can't use the side entrance because the ramps aren't thingied enough. The angle's a bit too steep on some of them and you tip. I've also had bad incidents of falling off the side of a ramp on a wheelchair taxi and side loader. So I always request a rear loader. Now these cabs come fitted with ramps as standard and they're not that hard to adapt. But according to Station Taxis, they don't have many of those on the road, and it doesn't seem to matter what time you ring up, they can't guarantee to have one for you. It's a case of, yeah, if you're able-bodied, you can have a taxi, you can book it 3 days in advance, that's not a problem. But if you're disabled, it's a case of tough, you know, we'll have to see what we've got at the time you need it. And the last time I rang, what I got told off them was, well, you know, if we've got one, we'll send it. Which when you're trying to get to a train station to catch a train on time, isn't exactly what you need to hear, especially if you're disabled, because you're already stressed enough as it is trying to sort out all the disability things.
See it, say it, sort it. You recording? Oh, oops.
So you're going to have to carry the case under the train. I'm not that strong. Alright.
So we finally made it onto the train, a lot easier than was expected to, a lot easier to get on, wider, more room with the wheelchair space, a lot more space for the luggage as well, so feeling quite confident now. We'll just wait and see what happens when we get to King's Cross and we have to get on, get into the cars with Alice and Lee, see whether or not there's any issues with them like we've had this morning with station taxis. Yeah, so everybody seems happy, so I'll just let you see, turn it around, what that is, but you know, everybody seems happy on board and kids seem happy, so yeah, quite a comfortable ride, quite a good experience. The assistance team were very helpful at the checkpoint. Used the access tunnel and elevators to get to the platform, so we didn't have to worry about anything awkward about stairs or anything like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens when we get to King's Cross.
Yeah,
I don't.
Obviously.
So, finally arrived. Bit of a faff on. Train journey was fine, no issues whatsoever there. Got off at King's Cross, we actually arrived early. Assistance was quite prompt, it was quite easy to get off those new Azuma trains. The access is actually quite good. The angle isn't steep, so it was really easy to negotiate. I felt really confident. There was a lot of room on the train. A lot of room to turn around. The bathroom seemed fine. I'll try and get some images of the bathroom when we leave on Monday. So yeah, really happy with that. And the assistance we got from LNER. Arrived at King's Cross, turned up and no car. So we'd booked a company car from a company called Alice and Lee because we needed a wheelchair accessible vehicle. I used them before, the town cars before. However, this time when I booked it, instead of charging us the normal fee, which is around about £20 to £30, which is what they charge anybody who gets a normal taxi car, company town car from them, they actually wanted to charge me £49 because I was hiring a accessible vehicle. So basically double to do the same journey as somebody who's able-bodied who can get in and out of a normal cab could do. They wanted to charge me twice the cost because I had to have a wheelchair accessible cab. So that's point number one. Point number two, like I said, is we turned up at King's Cross, absolutely no car. No text messages, because you meant to get text messages to let you know the car's arrived, what your driver's name is, and his license plate number, which is why we use them, because it's a little bit extra security for me, peace of mind. If you're disabled, you'll probably feel the same as I do when you're travelling. It's a quite anxious thing when you're disabled, and it takes a lot of planning. If you're not disabled, then you'll not understand how difficult it can be and how anxious you can get about this. So anyway, rings Alice and Lee. They took the money out last night and they actually cancelled the cab. So there was no cab booked. So we could have been sit there forever basically and nothing would have turned up. So after a very heated telephone conversation, they actually got a cab straight to us. Told the driver it was on account, but apparently they are going to refund the cost because of the cancellation and the mix-up. So I'm actually going to wait and see what happens with that. So I'll keep you updated over the 4 days as to how that goes. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when we leave on Monday, because we actually have 2 cars booked with them on Monday to get back to King's Cross. However, when we got this car, they had originally said that my husband couldn't come in the car with us because it wouldn't hold 5 people, including the wheelchair. So we were expecting him to get a normal taxi, like London Black Cab, to the hotel. But as it turned out, you know, bonus points I suppose for them is that he actually did fit in the same cab, so we actually saved some money there. So we've arrived at the hotel. We're just staying at the Premier Inn at the Excel. They normally do disabled rooms. Normally I would book a disabled room, but this time I thought I would see how different staying in a standard room would be compared to a disabled room. So bearing in mind my wheelchair's bigger than most electric wheelchairs, because I'm a big lady. Got through the door, no problem. Plenty of space to turn around when we came in. As you can see, probably would have issues getting a wheelchair into the bathroom because it's not a very big bathroom, so the wheelchair probably wouldn't go through the door. And obviously the bathroom isn't disabled, so there's no grab rails, it's not a lower bath, it's not a wet room, there's not a raised toilet, or there's no grab rails on the toilet, but that's fine because I'm not too bad with that. I can manage for a short period of time like that. The difference in the main room is the beds are lower in a disabled room so that you can transfer straight from a wheelchair, and obviously that isn't possible in a standard room, but this is like a family room, so you know we've got 3 of us staying in this room, but as you can see you could easily sleep 4 in this room. You know, yeah, if you had to stay in your wheelchair, you would have issues obviously manoeuvring around, but if you're like me where you can be ambulant, you know, for a very small percentage of time, it's not too bad. So if you can manage with the bathroom without adaptations and the handrails, and you can get in and out of your wheelchair to get short distances like I can, then you can't book a disabled room, then a standard room or a family room would probably be adequate for you. There's lifts to all the floors, and the restaurant is quite easily accessible, and so is the entrance as well. Yeah, so we're going to go off for tea shortly down at the restaurant, so we'll catch up with you all tomorrow because it's the first day of the con tomorrow. So we'll be doing some coverage of accessibility, getting the tickets, getting into the building, what the stalls are like, and on Fridays are usually quieter than Saturdays and Sundays, so we'll do some coverage on the floor as well, so you'll be able to see what that's like. But hopefully this is giving you some information about booking to go on a train, what it's like to get on and off the train when you're in a wheelchair, the issues you can have trying to get cars. So it depends. Sometimes you're lucky and everything will run nice and smoothly, and other times like today, not so lucky. But just bear in mind, if you are planning on getting a train anywhere and you do need mobility assistance for whatever reason, do make sure you book at least 48 hours in advance the assistance from LNER. You can do it on the website. It's just a short form, or you can give them a call. It's really easy to do, really simple. If anybody does need to know how to do the forms or where to access the forms, give me a shout, and I will do a quick video on how to access these forms and what they look like. But you must do them at least 48 hours before you travel. You can't turn up in a wheelchair or need mobility assistance and expect them to give you it, because you do have to pre-book. Same with the seats. You need, if you're using a wheelchair, you will need to use the assistance, because there's only 2 carriages that actually have wheelchair spaces, and that's carriage A and first class. So like I said, whatever you do, if you are going to travel by train, make sure that you actually pre-book it all first, at least 48 hours for the assistance. But LNER were absolutely lovely, no issues. So we're going to settle down now, getting ready to go for tea, getting some shut-eye because it's up early tomorrow at 7 o'clock, breakfast, and then we'll catch up with you then from the con. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.